Hello everyone, the Skilled Roy here, back with another Legends of Runeterra video, and today we have the Renekton reveal. I'm super excited to see what Shurima's tricks sort of bring to the table, so let's hop right in and see what the cards do.
Die.
And the Sun Disc we saw earlier, okay. Alright, so he is a 4-mana 4/4 with Overwhelm, so this is similar to the Ballista. And then whenever I challenge an enemy, give me +2/+1 this round. Very interesting he doesn't have Challenger himself, so I imagine that they'll either have a lot of vulnerable effects or a lot of challenge effects. Let's see what happens. Cool. Give something +2? +2 and you make something vulnerable. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Carnage follows.
Damn, alright. It's a huge attack swing just like that. This thing minus health and vulnerable. Okay. Quicksand. Give an enemy -4 and disable their keywords. Damn. Okay. So that's an easy way to get rid of elusive, of course. Holy fuck, that level up! Jesus Christ! Hey, hang on. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta watch that back. Hang on. Damn, the models look so clean. Amazing. Man, they really stepped it up, eh? What's level 3 gonna be? Oh, he's +3/+3 now. Wow, okay. And he doesn't need a conditional anymore.
The Sun Disc's light leads us into the future.
Yeah, we saw the card yesterday as well. God damn! What are these level ups? They're so much better than everything else I've ever seen! God damn! Look at that sick new border too. Do 2 damage to fucking everything. Wow. Renekton looks slick. That is actually crazy. Of course, everyone, that is not all. They actually added some new cards as well, so we're gonna be taking a look at those right here, right now. Okay, so first up is Renekton's champion spell, the one we saw during the video, and that is Ruthless Predator, the 2-mana burst speed spell. Give an ally 2 attack and an enemy vulnerable this round. Now, right off the bat, we also obviously saw that Renekton has a challenger bonus, but doesn't have challenger himself. So this will be one of the most predominant ways, I assume, to give your unit vulnerable. It obviously has a huge synergy point with him. It gives him attack, which fuels his level up condition, as well as gives enemy vulnerable so that he can activate his secondary ability. This means that he kind of attacks for 8 attack as long as you have 2 mana stored up, which is kind of absurd. It's only just shy of a Darius on turn 4, which is wow, you can do so much with this. I'm actually really impressed with this card overall. Vulnerable was an effect we saw a lot more of in the Bilgewater expansion comparatively to the Targon one, so I'm glad we're going back to see another really good mechanic like this, and perhaps it also sort of lends a possibility to what some of the other regions could be caring about. This means that creature combat is going to be really relevant again, comparatively to Targon, which had a lot more spells and development of creation cards and stuff like that. Overall, I'm like super happy to see this card. I'm really excited. The natural synergy point is there, and I'm really interested in how this is going to interact with some of the overwhelmed decks we've already seen run in the past, because that's where I see this card really taking shape. Okay, and the next card is the 4-mana 5/3 in Shurima, Bakai Sandspinner. Play, grant an enemy -1 attack and vulnerable. So this is actually quite similar to a card, Longtooth, which is Fizz's Shark, which is a 5/2 with Overwhelm that gives something vulnerable. So you're losing 1 health with the Longtooth, and it's castable with spell mana, so it's a little bit different type of a value proposition there. But this card isn't too bad. I can see it being used obviously with Renekton because he obviously needs the vulnerable, but I don't really see it being incredibly powerful outside of that. Another really great comparison is actually Nocturne. Nocturne ices the entire board and leaves them vulnerable, whereas this is a permanent -1 attack on 1 unit and vulnerable. Of course, the one big difference between those is that that Nocturne has Fearsome, which is a lot better for this sort of effect, so you can actually use that -1 attack to sort of get underneath them. Without Fearsome, I have to question and wonder where it's going to be going. I have to imagine it's basically only going to be going into like a mid-rangey, overwhelming style deck, because I don't think this is good enough to see it in the Fearsome speed type of decks. Overall, not bad, but definitely less exciting overall. I'm interested in it, but I'm hesitant with it. You know what I mean? I'm excited to see more with it. I think it'll be more open as we see more vulnerable synergies pop up in this set. Well, they finally did it. They finally did it. They have made me actively sad. I am... For those of you who don't know, one of my first videos ever on this channel was complaining about how our Legion Rearguard was nerfed from a 3-2 to a 3-1, and how so many other 1-drops in the game were just objectively better than it, and it felt insane to me that it was being kept as a 3-1 can't block. My theory initially was that, okay, look, if you really don't want it to have 2 health because you want it to be vulnerable to things, can you please at least let us remove the can't block from it? Because honestly, a 3-1 for 1 mana that can't block is still perfectly fine, in all honesty. And hey, look, looks like they agreed with me. Here we go, a 1 mana 3-1 with no can't block. Wow, crazy how that works. Of course, I'm being a little facetious here. I'm a still strong proponent of please unnerf Legion Rearguard. He does not deserve what he got. But this card is pretty interesting. I'm going to see how it sort of operates overall. This is sort of a taste of what the aggressive aspects of Shurima might be like. A 1 mana 3-1. Maybe this will sort of imply that the future Shuriman cards will be high attack, low health units. But we'll have to see, because we also saw that a little bit later with some of the other cards, like Bakai Sandspinner, which was a 5-3. So we're sort of seeing a bit of a pattern here. We'll see if that continues to expand outwards, if it's just for like Renekton's cards, or if it's for the entirety of Shurima as a whole. Not too much to say about this, other than perhaps let's look towards some more patterns in the future with it. Oh man, this card right here, I am so happy to see this card. This is a 1 mana exhaust spell, and it is called Focus. Give an enemy -2 attack and vulnerable this round. And you're like, what the hell is Focus? What the hell is this new keyword? Focus is finally, what we've been asking for is a keyword for the 4th type of speed in Legends of Runeterra. So for those of you who don't know, the 3 types of speed you probably know from the game's tutorial system is slow, which is only castable on when there's nothing on the stack and not during combat, that sort of thing. Then you have fast, which can be cast at any time and be in response to opponents' attacks or spells. And there's burst, which is the same as fast essentially, but it activates immediately and leaves no opportunity for your opponent to respond. However, there was one new type introduced with the Targon set, which was featured on the gems and the blade fragments from Riven and a couple other cards as well, and that was this gem speed, which is that it's a burst speed spell, but you can only cast it when you have priority on your when you have priority and not during combat and not in response to a spell. So it was like a combination of a slow spell and a burst spell into one thing. Now this is what they've sort of come up with here, is that Focus, they've confirmed on Twitter recently that it is exactly that. This is what the gem speed spell is going to be, and they're going to retroactively go back and change those cards to become a focus speed spell, which will make them look so much cleaner. I can't even describe how happy I am to see that. Instead of having to have that ugly text that says can't be cast in combat or in response to a spell, you can just have it say heal 1, gain 1 attack, boom, done, and just have Focus on it right there. Really, really great stuff. I am really excited to see the Focus keyword. As a card though, it's hard to say. I think this is really interesting in the first place because it's a way to easily get in to do damage. It's almost like a mini removal spell because you're going to be taking out their attacks, so you hopefully get to trade really, really favorably into it. I'm not too sure how much you can see use outside of, say, a Renekton deck. We'll see what happens. I think I'm excited for it, but I'm not too sure to what extent it's going to be very competitively viable. I'm hoping it's pretty good, but I don't know. All right, next up we have probably yet another card I'm going to hate one day, and that is Quicksand. 3 mana burst speed, give an enemy -4 attack, and disable its combat keywords this round. Now, what are combat keywords? These are things like quick attack. These are things like overwhelm. These are things like double attack, those sort of things. The one that enhance your character while they're in combat, basically. Honestly, I am kind of scared of this. This is like basically a miniature Hush and a Frostbite rolled into one. So it's basically half a Hush and half a Frostbite and put into one card for the same amount of mana. So that is the big issue with Hush, for example. When you Hush something, you're not really stopping its really powerful stat patterns, and likewise, when you Frostbite something, you're not really stopping its perhaps stronger keywords. Now, we'll see just how good this gets and what exactly it means by combat keywords. I will have to test this pretty extensively to make sure how everything sort of works out. But my initial impression is that this is a little spooky, I'm not gonna lie. We'll see how this sort of develops as time goes on. I do like how it's not so completely polarizing as Hush is, so that's at least nice for deck building considerations, but I would have to see just how powerful this card can go. Like, does combat keyword count Last Breath, for example? I can't imagine it does because it works all the time, but again, we'll have to see how this works overall. All right, talk about cards that tell more about the region. We have Unworthy here. 2 mana, slow speed spell. Give an enemy follower -4 attack this round. Or if you have fewer mana gems than your opponent, kill it instead. Incredible. 2 mana vengeance, essentially. But it has this weird condition where you have to have fewer mana gems than your opponent. As we're going to see soon with some of these cards I'm going to be bringing up here, there's ways to sacrifice mana crystals in Shurima to give yourself a benefit immediately. And that is really interesting. It's basically the reverse of a ramp deck, where instead of you're trying to ramp ahead of your opponent, you're trying to put yourself behind your opponent and play closer to the ground, but get bonuses for doing that. Honestly, really, really cool stuff. I think that power with a cost type of archetype is something that we really haven't seen too much of in Legends of Runeterra. This is typically what you see the black color do in Magic the Gathering. So I'm really excited to see what they really have here. Maybe we'll have some spells that give the opponent mana gems for a turn, so we can activate our spells that work like this more easily. I'm really excited for seeing more of these. As for now, though, it's very, very interesting and very exciting. We'll see to what extent it becomes more powerful, or if it becomes something you want to build your deck around. And here we go. One of the cards I was talking about that makes you spend your mana gems, that is Rite of Dominance. Kill an enemy or destroy one of your mana gems to give all enemies -2 attack this round. Oh my god, this card is crazy. So for those who don't know, I am the Fearsome player. I play mostly Fearsomes and I love that deck to death. And I think Rite of Dominance is something that I am just terrified of. This card seems so good. So first things first, destroying your mana gems in a deck like Fearsomes really does not matter, because most of your units are really close to the ground in terms of mana costs, right? We're talking like 1 to 4 range. Now on top of that though, you also have the ability to kill an ally if you really do need that mana. So for example, one big issue that the Fearsome deck has sometimes is that the Stygian Onlooker card, which is the 1 mana 2/1 Nightfall card, after it's been used for its Fearsome effect, it becomes just a vanilla 1 mana 2/1 unit. So it doesn't have that many uses. Originally, what we would use it for is using Nocturne to be able to give something vulnerable so that the 2/1 could then drag it away from the rest of the Fearsome units. But now we can sacrifice that 2/1 instead and make the entire enemy board -2/0, which is crazy. That's 2 Skitterers for 4 mana. That is terrifying at how strong that becomes. Honestly, this card could very well be the exact reason why you go into like an SI Shurima Fearsome deck, and I am extremely excited to see what future cards that come into this region for that are going to be like, because it seems like Fearsome might just be a deck type for Shurima, and that is something I have been loving in Legends of Runeterra overall. Okay, next up we have another Fearsome Enabler card. We have Raz Bloodmane, the 7 mana 6/6 with Fearsome. Attack, give all enemies -2 attack this round. This just guarantees basically favorable trades, but let's be honest, you're really here for the Fearsome finisher. It is a 7 mana 6/6, so stats aren't spectacular for what you're really paying for here, but what's really, really impressive here is that this is actually quite similar to a card that was occasionally tried out in Fearsome, and that is Terror of the Tides, the sea monster, which had the same effect as this. Now, of course, Raz has a similar mana cost and doesn't have the sea monster bonus, but I think you're running this in non-sea monster decks in that case, in which case it's still doing its main job, which is being a Fearsome Enabler finisher. So I assume you have a whole board of Fearsomes, you attack with this, maybe you play a Skitterer as well, and you're basically unblockable. I know this seems really expensive for what it really does here, but you're really going to play this on turn 7 and attempt to win on that turn. It seems crazy high expensive, I know, but I really do think this could be the final maybe 1 or 2 copies in a Fearsome deck that just wants to hit the board, win the game on that swing. I think it actually has a possibility of being competitively viable. I know it seems crazy, I know I seem insane, but I think this card is genuinely very good. And if there's any more good Fearsome cards or Fearsome support cards in Shurima, I think this could easily be something that works towards pushing that archetype a little bit further into competitive viability. And of course, lastly, we have our boy Renekton. Now, a Renekton, I think immediately a lot of people are comparing him to Shyvana or Darius, and I don't really agree, especially with the Shyvana one. The Shyvana comparison comes from, hey, when you attack with them on turn 4, they get stats, and then that's all they do. See, for Shyvana, that's valid because she doesn't really get that much. But with Renekton, you're still constantly pushing damage forward with that Overwhelm. As I sort of explained earlier, with Ruthless Predator, you're attacking for 8 damage on Renekton onto a small target. They can't even remove it in response because first of all, it's burst speed, and if they kill it in combat to try to save it or do anything to it, that Overwhelm is hitting them for 8 damage into the face. And that is not at all going to stop Renekton whatsoever. Comparatively, when Siobhan is attacking, you can kill your own unit, you can bounce it, you can do all sorts of things to it that will make it impossible for it to take the damage, but Renekton is still going to be swinging through and dealing that damage. The comparison also was to Darius, who's also a finisher Overwhelm unit. Darius hits the board on turn 6. This is not at all comparable. Renekton on average will get at least one more attack before Darius does, and that's more than enough to start pushing damage way sooner and way more efficiently. I will say, obviously, Darius is still a solid card. I'm really excited to play with him too, especially maybe perhaps with Renekton. But we're really gonna have to see what other tools Shurima brings, because this is suspiciously powerful, and I do think that Renekton can just slowly win games just for free, just by playing Ruthless Predator on 4 and then just blowing them up for 8 damage and then just winning off of just either burn spells or more overwhelming units that you'll have in your deck. I think it would be a mistake to only look at this card with the Sun Disc. I know it has a level 3, guys. I know it's really exciting, but you don't need it. He's just a good card on his own. He just attacks for 1 billion damage, and he's really similar to another famously broken card, and that was Basilisk Rider, all the way back when it got nerfed from 6 attack to 5. So I think the cards is pretty good. We're gonna have to see obviously some more, and especially how often and how easy it is to activate Challenger. But Renekton, I think, is a pretty solid card, and I'm excited to try him out with all sorts of really powerful vulnerable decks, and perhaps some all-in Overwhelm style decks with either Noxus or Freljord. Well, that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow we have the rumored Jarvan the 4th card, so we'll get to see some Demacia units. I'm super excited to see if they manage to push it into a new sort of direction besides mid-range, because that's sort of the main deck type that Demacia always sort of gets forced into. But we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited to see what they have to offer for us. But until tomorrow, I've been the Skilled Roy. Peace out.